Hello. Have you ever apologized for asking a question or apologized because somebody bumped into you? Have you ever spent 10 minutes rewriting a text because you didn't want to bother someone or felt guilty sitting down to relax because you hadn't earned your break yet? Maybe someone gave you a compliment and your first instinct was to explain why it wasn't true. These moments are little clues pointing to an underlying story your brain has been writing for a very long time. And today I want to talk about where that story comes from. Now, let me be crystal clear from the get-go. This exploration is not so you can find someone to blame for how you are today, and it is also not a chance to relive your childhood. I believe neither of those are helpful or beneficial in any way. This information today is for understanding how a developing brain can quietly reach conclusions about who you are and then how those end up following you into adulthood. Most of the time, these conclusions are not even factual. I think most people can agree that it's pretty difficult to change a limiting belief when it feels like the limiting belief is truth. That is why I think understanding the information in this video today is important if you want to begin making some changes. So let's start by picturing a newborn baby, minutes old. Now imagine that baby looking around the room and saying, "I'm so sorry to be a bother. I know everybody's tired. I'll try to keep my crying to a minimum. Feed me whenever you get a chance. No hurry, no rush." That doesn't happen. A baby doesn't apologize for existing or needing food or love or care. A baby doesn't wonder if they deserve love, and it doesn't lie awake thinking, "I hope I've done enough to deserve some affection or be worthy of attention today." A baby simply needs out loud at 3 o'clock in the morning and expects that those needs are going to be met, as they should. You were that baby once, and so was I. So was every single person watching this video. Every single person on the planet, which tells us something important. The feeling that you have to earn your worth, that you have to prove yourself, that you're somehow not enough, wasn't something you were born believing. It came after. It came later. Most people assume a worthiness wound comes from this huge traumatic moment. And sometimes it does. A traumatic event can absolutely shape the way somebody sees themselves. But much more often, our worthiness story is built quietly in the background, one ordinary moment at a time, thousands of little experiences that by themselves don't seem life-changing. Yet, strung together, they begin teaching a child's underdeveloped brain what to anticipate, what to expect. So let's imagine now that you're 5 years old and you run into the kitchen carrying a picture you just drew, and you're excited. You can't wait to show mom or dad. She barely looks up. "Not now, honey." That's it. 2 words. Not now. And that one moment, those 2 words, by itself probably does not create a lifelong belief. But here's something I find fascinating. Your 5-year-old brain can't interpret that moment the way your adult brain can. As adults, we have options. Maybe mom had a stressful day. Maybe she's exhausted. Maybe she has food on the stove that's about to boil over. Maybe she didn't even hear the excitement in my voice. Adults can hold several explanations at the same time. A child's brain can't. The part of the brain responsible for stepping back and considering context and thinking through all the different possibilities isn't developed yet. The prefrontal cortex won't fully mature until well into your 20s. So a young child searching for an explanation, it's going to search for the one that's easiest to find. Might sound like, it must be me. I'm not important. I'm too much. I'm annoying. Could be a number of misinterpretations, but notice something. None of those are facts. They're conclusions, and a conclusion is not the same thing as a fact. That's a sentence I'd love for you to carry with you throughout this entire video. A conclusion is not the same thing as a fact. Now imagine that same kind of moment happening again and again. Not every day, but just often enough. Dad is distracted. A teacher seems disappointed. A sibling gets praised while maybe you're getting corrected. and you start noticing something, or at least your underdeveloped brain thinks it's noticing something, without anyone saying the words out loud, your brain begins putting together this story. I need to be quiet. I need to work harder to get approval. I shouldn't have so many needs. I need to earn my attention from people. And it's important to know here that your brain isn't trying to make you feel bad. It's just trying to help you get your needs met, help you feel safe, help you survive. And for most of human history, staying connected to your caregivers meant staying alive. So your brain pays incredibly close attention to anything that might threaten that connection. Anything that feels like rejection, disappointment, criticism, or disconnection. It gets stored more carefully than everyday pleasant moments. Psychologists call this the negativity bias. It's a built-in survival feature where your brain is constantly asking, what do I need to remember so this doesn't happen again? And that makes perfect sense if you're trying to stay safe. The problem with that is that sometimes what gets remembered isn't actually what happened. It's the conclusion that the underdeveloped brain, or our child's brain, draws about circumstances at the time, and it assigns meaning. It assigns it to mean something personal. Here's another example. Imagine you're the easy child. You don't ask for much, you don't make waves, and the adults around you smile and say, "You're such an easy child," or "What a good kid." And you hear that over and over. Again, nothing wrong with the adults. They're probably just trying to compliment you, but your brain quietly learns that being easy gets approval. Having needs might not get approval, and years later, you're the adult that is now saying, "I'm fine," even when you're drowning. Because your brain learned a long time ago that keeping your needs to yourself felt more acceptable to others. And that conclusion can begin to feel like it's who you are, it's your personality, when really, in fact, it's just an adaptation. Another thing I find very fascinating is that many of these conclusions form before we're even capable of remembering where they came from, before we're even capable of speaking. Your emotional memory system develops very early, and then the part of your brain that stores detailed autobiographical memories develops later. So those early experiences often don't show up as memories, they show up as feelings. You don't think, "Oh, I remember deciding I wasn't enough when I was 6. Instead, it just simply feels true. You aren't even thinking, "This is just who I am." It's just showing up in your behavior and the way you connect to the world. And that's one of the reasons that our worthiness wounds can feel so convincing, because they've been quietly running in the background for decades sometimes. This does not make them facts. Now, if this conversation ended here, it might feel pretty discouraging. You might be thinking, well, if these pathways have been running for 30 or 40 years, then I guess I'm just stuck with them. Thankfully, that's not how the brain works. One of the most remarkable things we've learned through neuroscience is that your brain never stops changing. The same ability that allowed these pathways to form in childhood is still available to you today. Your brain is constantly strengthening the pathways you use most often, which means it can also strengthen new ones. Not overnight, and not because you decide to think positive. People who know me know I am not a fan of just be positive. Sorry, I digress. That's for another time. Back to the brain and how it's constantly is strengthening the pathways we use the most often. Whether those are negative pathways or positive pathways. That's what healthy brains do. They adapt. And this is happening throughout your entire life. Every time you notice a familiar thought and you pause and choose your response, you're taking one more step down a new neural pathway. At first, it's going to feel awkward. That's normal. It's new. Anything new feels awkward. Your brain is using a pathway it hasn't walked before, or walked very often, but with repetition, this new pathway becomes easier to find, and then easier to follow, and eventually it starts feeling natural. That's neuroplasticity. I love this shit. It changed my life. This is one of the reasons I encourage people to notice their thoughts before trying to change them. You can't build a new pathway if you don't even know which one you're already walking. Awareness comes first, then choice, then repetition, and that's how change becomes possible. I also want to come back to something that I was talking about earlier. Remember this sentence that I said? A conclusion is not the same thing as a fact. That little child, your younger self, reached conclusions using the information you had available. Those conclusions made sense at the time. If being easy kept the peace, that was an intelligent adaptation. If achieving brought you some attention, that was an intelligent adaptation. If staying quiet helped you not be criticized or helped you feel safe, that was an intelligent adaptation. Your younger self wasn't trying to become anxious or perfectionistic or people-pleasing. Your younger self was trying to stay connected, trying to stay safe, trying to get its needs met. And that's what children do. And this is the part that I hope you remember the most from this video. The experiences you carry, some of them created wounds, they are just evidence that you were paying close attention as a child and you were adapting to your circumstances. I'd actually like to give your younger self credit. That little human was doing the very best they could do with an underdeveloped or unfinished brain and very little life experience at that time. Looking back now, with 60 years of wisdom, or 40 or 25 or however old you are, I think it's easy to think, I should have known better. But you couldn't have. You didn't have the brain you have today. You didn't have the perspective you have today. You simply did what every developing brain is designed to do. You learned. And the beautiful part is, you're still learning. We all are. Your past is important. And all of your experiences, painful, exciting, joyful, whatever, they all brought you something. And none of those are the final authority on who you are or who you have to be forever. It's just your history. It's just your experiences. And it doesn't get to define your future unless your history continues running your life on autopilot without your awareness. Awareness can make great changes. Once you see the patterns, you have choices. Maybe not easy choices, maybe not desirable ones, but you have choices. And every time you choose differently, your brain pays attention. So I want to leave you with this. Listen closely. You were worthy on the day you were born, before you had accomplished anything, before you had learned to walk or talk, before you got good grades or earned any paychecks or accolades, before anyone told you that you were too much or not enough or needy. Your worth wasn't something you achieved or had to earn, and it isn't something you need to achieve or have to earn now. What changed over the years wasn't your worth. What changed was the story your brain learned to tell you about your worth. Stories can be questioned, and conclusions can be revisited, and pathways can be rebuilt. So this week, I hope you will make time to notice. Notice the moments when you apologize for taking up space. Notice when you talk yourself out of receiving a compliment. Notice when you feel like you have to earn a break or a moment of rest instead of simply taking one. Notice when there's that old voice that quietly whispers, you're being too much, or you're not good enough. And when you notice it, just pause. Take one slow breath, and then remind yourself, that's an old conclusion. It isn't necessarily a fact. Don't argue with it. Don't force yourself to try to change it and try to believe something different. Just notice it. That's the first step. Because every time you notice the old pathway, you're creating a little space. And in that space, something new begins. So next week, I'm going to do a video to take us into the next step. We're going to go into ways to begin building new pathways in your brain. Understanding where a worthiness wound came from is important and good awareness, but understanding alone doesn't create change. Awareness starts the change process. So I'm going to put together a video to share some practical ways to build new pathways. And don't worry, it's not going to be affirmations to say into the mirror that you don't even believe while you're saying them. You can tell I love that. There's a place for that. Not dissing it altogether. This is not the place for that. I want to give you practical, real practices grounded in how your brain learns and changes. So until then, practice noticing and be gentle with yourself in the process. Your brain has been trying to protect you for a very long time. Now it's going to be learning that there are new ways to do that. So until next time, I love you. Take care of yourself, and I'm sending you peace and light.